Right, let us create our character that we're going to be using in the playthrough. Now, there is a section at the start, of course, there is about how to actually create your character, but I've made a note in terms of what I need to do, so don't have to keep opening the book and damaging the spine even more. So, let me think. All right, so I have actually used an online generator to create my character name, and I was thinking, you know what, it would be nice to have something like a Pacific Island name. So I used an online generator to come up with a name from Papua New Guinea. So it actually gave me, and my pencil breaks immediately, that's good, isn't it? Kerenga, and I think this is pronounced Olewale. That's how I'm going to be pronouncing it anyway. So Kerenga Olewale. Yeah, I thought like a Pacific Islander would be quite suitable for a game like this. So that's the name that I've generated randomly, and that's the name of the character we're going to be playing. There are some standard attributes here, 6 that we have to roll for, and you're going to be rolling 3d6 6 times, and then assigning as you want. Now, that's what it says in the book, but from my experience playing Dungeons and Dragons, if you want to be a little bit generous to yourself, like we used to do with D&D sometimes, roll 4d6, take the best 3. If you want to be kind of a little bit more demanding and challenging, maybe you roll them in order, so you've got less choice in terms of what you want to do. But I have played this a couple of times, learning the system ready for the video, and I think what I want to do this time is something less combat oriented, maybe something a bit more in terms of stealth, survival, perception kind of focus. So I'm going to be looking at dexterity and intelligence as being my main stats. Whether that's going to work or not, I don't know. I'm thinking this character's more along the lines of somebody who tries to avoid combat as much as he can. That's the way that I'm going to be playing it. So, you've got your basic stats here. Underneath the stats on the character sheet, you'll notice that there are a number of boxes. I mentioned these in the earlier part, where once you have raised a number of skills, you'll be shading in these boxes, which will give you a chance to raise your attributes. And these are the boxes that I was talking about earlier here. And these boxes with the skills are used to indicate the ones that you may have a chance of increasing. But also there is a an associated attribute, which is linked with the attribute, and it is the value times 5. And it's essentially a D100 or a percentile version of that attribute. So what you'll do is you'll roll each of these attributes using 3d6 6 times, and then assign as you want, and then you'll multiply each one by 5 to give you these associated attributes. So strength has got brawn, dexterity has coordination, constitution has vitality, will has tenacity, intelligence has intellect, and charisma has charm. From that, we will then be able to generate our health points, which is your constitution times 2, your power points, which will be equal to your will, and your speed. Walking and swimming is your dex times 2, and running is your dex times 4. Then we look at things like skills and talents. But let's start with the attributes first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 6 times, and we're then going to assign. Let's move the book out of the way, give ourselves a little bit more space. We'll come back to the book when I need to do things like skills. So I'm going to roll them 6 times, and then we'll assign. So first roll, we get 11, 13. Okay, not bad to start with. Next, I should keep my mouth shut, shouldn't I? 6. Here we go. Oh dear, 8. If this really turns out to be a really bad set of... Yep, a really bad set of dice, I'm going to do another set. I mean, I'm all for a challenge, but another 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. It's not looking good at the moment. Sorry, I didn't have those in camera, did I? 5, 6. Yeah, I'm going to roll those again. I'm sorry. That's just that's just asking for too much trouble. Let's try another success again. When I used to do D&D, we used to sort of give ourselves a little bit of leniency in terms of rolling up stats. Right, 8. Oh God. Oh, hello. That's a bit better. 16. That's a bit better. Maybe I should be rolling with my left hand in all my games from now on. It seems to be a little bit better. 11. Okay. Of course, I've now just tempted fate, and the dice gods are going to look at me and go, oh, hello. 15. It's like second time could be the charm. 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. No, I think I'll keep this one. It's got a couple of good stats. 9. All right. Now, this game will be using your sort of standard polyhedral set of dice, your D4s, your D8s, your D10s. But it's probably a good idea to have some extra 6-sided and probably 10-sided maybe as well. So I've got those to hand as well. Right. So let us assign the stats. Now, I'm thinking things like stealth, which is dexterity. Again, I've got to check whether that's on camera. Yes, it is. There it is. So stealth is dex. Sailing is dex. Survival is intelligence. What else am I looking at? Crafting, maybe dex. Like I say, I'm thinking of this character more as a utility in terms of he can look after himself, he can kind of avoid things, mend things, create things. So like I said, I'm looking at dex and intelligence. I'm just thinking which one should get the slightly higher stat. I mean, the rest of them ain't brilliant, but I think dex is probably the one that's going to be affecting the most skills anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 16 into dex, 15 into intelligence. Dump. Right, we've got 2 11s, a 9 and an 8. Not brilliant, but it's okay. Charisma could be quite useful. Will. Again, I'm thinking of this guy not really as a combatant, as a warrior. So maybe strength and constitution I can put the lower, maybe. I mean, again, D&D, when we used to play D&D, it was charisma that normally had the lowest stat, unless you were playing a bard or a paladin. But would charisma be useful in this game? I've got to be honest, I haven't come across a lot of instances, except for settlements, where charisma could be useful much. Maybe this game will be different. 11, 11, 9 and 8. I'm thinking constitution, I think I need to have fairly decent. So I'm going to put in 11 in constitution. I'm thinking 11 in charisma maybe. Dealing with people. I mean, none of them are really good stats anymore anyway, so what's charisma used for? Charisma is used for animal handling, command, manipulation, performance. Strength would be good for weapons if I do get into trouble. Now let's go with 11 charisma, 9 and 8. Maybe a 9 in strength and an 8 in will. Okay, so those are my starting attributes. Now we're going to multiply all of them by 5 to get the associated attributes. As if by magic, the associated values are here. So strength is 9, brawn is 45, dex is 16, so coordination is 80, constitution 11, vitality is 55, Will is 8, tenacity is 40, intelligence is 15, intellect is 75, charisma 11, and charm is 55. So like I say, I'm not planning on this guy entering a lot of combat if he can help it. May not be possible sometimes, right? Now, from that, we then generate our secondary attributes, which are health points, power points, and speed. So health points is equal to our constitution times 2, not vitality. We don't start off with 110. We are starting with 22. So I'll write that here under maximum. Power points is equal to our will, not good. But again, I've had experience in my warm-up games, in my learning games, and sorcery is dangerous, more dangerous than the enemies you find. And speed. So for speed, you've got walk and run. Walk is your dex times 2. So my dex is 16, so my walk is 32. My run is 64 feet per minute. Or feet, sorry, not feet per minute, feet per round. Not sure how I'm going to represent that in terms of the playthrough, but we'll see. It may be important for things such as reaching a certain destination in time, maybe swimming to a certain depth. But I'm thinking more in terms how that's going to be applied in terms of things like combat encounters. I've got to think about that. Right, after that, we now got to look at skills. There are a range of skills to choose from, but you're not going to be as good at some as you are in others. Now, each of these skills will have a starting value, an initial score equal to its linked attributes. So for example, acrobats is a dex skill, a dexterity skill. So even if you don't have any training or anything else, you're automatically going to start with a percentage value equal to your dex. So in my case, my dexterity is 16. So I will have an acrobatics starting initial value of 16. Animal handling will be 11%. Yeah, that's the skill value. However, when you create a character, you do get to boost some of your skills. So you can put plus 60 to one skill, plus 40 to 3 skills, plus 20 to 5 skills, or you can choose to select one spell and then plus 20 to 4 skills, or you can select 2 spells and then plus 20 to 3 skills, and plus 10 to 2 skills. So you've got some enhanced skill values, maybe through your experience, maybe through your abilities. Now we've got to think in terms of what we're going to choose. I think it's a good idea to have at least one weapon ability. You have martial weapons, ranged weapons, simple melee weapons, and unarmed combat. Having one of those is definitely going to be useful, but in terms of what bonus you're going to give to it when you start the character, are you going to give it the plus 60? You can only give it to one skill. Now, again, I've been thinking about this. I'm thinking that, like I say, I'm going to be focused very much in terms of avoiding combat if possible. Hiding. So I'm thinking that stealth, I might raise the stealth by that plus 60, because I think that can get me out of a lot of trouble. So I'm thinking I'm going to give plus 60 to stealth. And then we've got 3 skills which are going to have a plus 40. Now again, I'm thinking survival, because this game's all about survival. So having survival skill, definitely useful. I'm also thinking crafting, because that could come in useful. And then I'm thinking simple weapons, because they're easy to find, maybe cheap to buy. They're things like staffs, clubs, sort of very, very basic weapons that anybody can basically use. Martial weapons will be things more like swords and axes. There is actually a list. There is actually a list in the book in terms of which weapons are which. It's at the back here, page 110. So simple melee weapons are things like clubs, daggers, great club, hand axe, mace, quarterstaff, and spear. Melee weapons, in terms of martial weapons, you've got other things: glaives, great swords, morning stars, tridents, yeah, all these sort of things. And then, of course, ranged. So I'm going to put the 40s into crafting, simple melee, and survival. Now, I am not choosing to take spells because, like I say, they're a little bit dangerous. We may be able to pick one up on our journeys. We may be able to learn or find some spells later in the journeys. Sorry, I just knocked the microphone. So I think for this character, I'm just going to start off with 5 skills with the plus 20. So what are we looking at here? Again, sailing is kind of something that I would recommend taking because it will come in useful at times when you're exploring. Dodge as well will help me to evade combat. I'm also thinking maybe ranged weapons. You know, hit them from afar. And then athletics. And I'm also thinking maybe perception, so that maybe I can see things like, maybe it would help me see traps or see when things are hidden, maybe. Again, could be quite useful. And then finally, we're going to have 2 skills which have a plus 10. And I'm thinking literacy, so that I can read, possibly read warnings and stuff I find. And then medicine is also a pretty good idea. So what we'll do is we will now take the basic value, the initial value, which is equal to the relevance ability, and we will add the modifiers. But I'm not going to do that yet because there's still some things that can modify these skills and abilities. So before I start writing down the final values here, before we start playing the game, I'm going to finish everything else and just see if there's any other changes or any other modifiers that we need to know. Right, what's next? Well, next are the talents. And in the book, where is it? In the book, you have all the skills, and it describes, each one, so you know what each one is. It tells you about, the modifiers we talked about just now. But there's also a selection of talents, and these are kind of like your, not really super powers, but things that you are extremely good at, things that are unique to you, not necessarily your ability at skills, but just talents, things that you are personally very good at, or you just tend to be adept at. And there's quite a few to choose from, and they can actually be quite powerful. What I'm thinking, again, I'm thinking more in terms of sort of a survival, avoiding combat kind of character. I think frugal is a good idea because what this does is it halves your reliance on rations and water. So you don't need to eat as much food or drink as much water, which is quite important in this game, as you can imagine. Healing and, fatigue. If you don't eat a ration every day, a ration is defined as 2 cups of water plus enough food for a single meal. If you don't have a ration every day, your fatigue goes up. And that really does hurt. Eventually you die. And as you're going to be on the water, you're not always guaranteed of finding fish or fresh water and things like that. So frugal basically halves the requirement in that you only require 1 ration for every 2 days. So I think that would be a pretty safe choice. So I'm going to write that here. Frugal. Now you have to choose 2. So the second one that I'm thinking is up here, watchful. And again, I'm focusing on the avoiding combat, escaping, dodging, and all these sort of things. So with watchful, you get a +5 to your initiative roll, which means you've got a higher chance of going first. And you cannot be surprised. Extremely useful. Now, of course, in these talents, there are also things where you can do better attacks, better to resist poisons or venoms, better with spells. What else is there? Immune to mind control. There's a lot of different talents and abilities here, but I'm going to go with frugal and watchful. And that gives me +5 to my initiative. Now, is there somewhere on here? I can't remember. I don't think so. This is the basic character sheet, front and back. I don't see anything in terms of initiative. So I'll write it down here where it says notes. So we have +5 Initiative. We've also cannot be surprised. Surprised or surprised? Surprised. Yeah, sometimes I look at these words, even though it's my native language, and I'm thinking, how the hell, is that spelt right? So those are my 2 talents. Right, there is one more thing to do, and that is your background. And it starts on page 17 and it goes to page 19. And it's like defining your character in terms of how they came to be in the middle of the ocean on a raft, where do you come from, all these sorts of things. But you are a escaped prisoner, and you've managed to kind of loosen your bonds. You managed to grab one of the life rafts off the side of the ship or the settlement, and you've basically managed to escape. And in these few tables, you're going to get a bit more information randomly generated in terms of how that comes into a narrative. So the first thing we're going to be asking is in terms of capture. So here, you start your story not as a fresh drifter ready to explore the one sea, but as one more of the many prisoners aboard a temple ship. Temple ships are these large floating temples that belong to the cults, the various cults. Not a good place to be if you're not a cultist. What does it say here? Who you were and what you did means little in the face of your recent ordeal. As a matter of fact, you can barely even remember your own name. I do. I rolled it up. You've been beaten, humiliated, starved, and cruelly punished. But your spirit never broke, and one night, when a particularly fierce storm hit the ship, you finally managed to escape. Roll on the following tables to learn what happened. Right now, there isn't an area on here for that, so I'm just going to grab a piece of paper so we can write down our background. Right, got me paper. Let's do a little bit of background rolling. Let's see where we come from. Okay, so we're rolling a D10. Which cult captured you? So this is my background. Which cult captured you? So we're rolling a D10. Where's my D10? There it is. So we get a 3. The Hallowed Creed. Zealots working to bring back Fenir, god of justice. Okay, so the Hallowed Creed. Now, there is a little bit of background, a little bit of lore, a little bit of narrative regarding all the different cults, which you can find in the thing here. Hallowed Creed here. Present day Creed cult is nothing more than a resurrected spiritual successor to the original one. Okay. Right, so that's who captured us. Next, why were you captured? So, why was I taken captive by this cult? And it is a D6. So we're rolling, we get another 3. All the 3s. 3. Someone needs to man the galleys. Okay. Okay, so someone needs to man the galleys. So maybe it's like a press gang kind of thing. We've been basically just kidnapped, captured, stolen, whatever, to sort of just man the navy or man these temple ships. Nothing else, just simple sort of like press gang or something. Right. Next question. Let's do that. Next question. How long were you captured? This is a D10. We get an 8, which is 6 months. Quite a long time, because on this is a maximum of a year, so it's quite long. All right, next, how did you escape? Be able to write a narrative or a background story based on this, and it's a D8. We've got another 3. Oh, the freeze! I saw an opportunity and I took it. +5 to perception. Ooh, that is one of the skills that I actually chose. So again, this is why I didn't put in the final values yet, because I'm getting another +5 to perception. Very nice, very cool. So perception is getting another 5. Okay. What's next? Before you left captivity, you had the chance to do something stupid. Rob the cult of something of value. Did you do it? If the answer is yes, roll on the following table. You must be ready to pay the price though. Okay, so there is an option here where you can steal from the cult that captured you. You can get some good stuff, but there is always a cost. You lost a finger, -1 dex. That would be really bad for me. You received a wound that doesn't really heal, -1 constitution. Down here, you are now hunted by the cult. Being hunted is not good because they send like elite guys after you. But I think in the way of sort of doing the playthrough and making it interesting, I think I'm gonna roll. Yeah, I think I'm gonna roll. I may regret it, but I think I'm gonna roll. What did you steal? Okay, D6. Need a good result for this. No, swine. No, not me dex. Nuts. And I've got something that I don't really need. 3d10 shards. 18 shards. Now, shards can be used as currency. They're worth a fair amount of money, but they're also used by magic users to, I think, to automatically cast spells. So you don't get the negative results or less negative results. But I lost a finger. No, it's really not what I wanted. -1 dex. So again, that is going to affect all of the skills that are dex based. So if I had written down here all of those 16s for the dex skills, I've now got to redo them as 15s. So I'm getting a -1. I'll adjust all of this off a bit later. I'll adjust it and then we'll carry on. Right, that wasn't good, was it? During your escape, you had the chance to free others. Did you take it? This is where you can start the game with an ally, but you have less money to start and you have less rations. And of course, you may want to have to sort of find rations for them if they're traveling with you, or maybe you can have them as people that turn up when you really need them, kind of thing. I don't think I'm going to do an ally, so I'm not going to do the ally. Okay. On your way out, you also managed to grab a few things that should help you in your journey ahead. One random weapon rolled on the random weapon table. Okay. If it's a bow, you start with UD6 arrows. Now, when it comes to this thing called UD6 or UD, it's actually a reference to a certain mechanic. And that can be found back at the equipment area of the book, and it's the usage die. And this is sort of similar to the dice chain. It represents quantities of ammo, things like that, quantity of torches. You don't actually need to keep a note of how many arrows or how many torches you have, but every time you use one, you have to roll the usage die to see whether you're using less and less. And basically, you start with a certain die value. So in this case, it says, if we get a bow as our starting weapon, we get UD6 arrows. What that means is you start with a D6. Every time or after every session, or every combat where you use arrows, you roll the D6, your usage die. Yeah. If you roll a 1 or 2, it goes down 1 step. And if you ever roll a 1 or 2 on the D4, then you run out. Your stock is finished. Now, if it had said, for example, here UD10, then you'll be rolling a D10 to start with. So at the end of every combat, when you're using arrows, or every section in a dungeon where you're using a torch, you will roll that dice. If it's a 1 or 2, you go down 1 step. It's a very clever way of keeping track of things like arrows and torches and other consumables without having to literally keep track of every single one. So this is what we call, like I say, the usage die. So we'll do that in a second. We also get D4 plus 6 rations. Now you're not going to be able to see this as a D4, but I got a 2. So we start with 8 rations. Right, I can't find anywhere else to put this. I'm going to put it on here, so I get 8 rations. So I just put it here. It might be somewhere on the raft sheet. I have to check. So I've got 8 rations. We got 5 D20 coins. So we got 7, 3. Oh, come on, come on. 9, all single digits. That's not good. 13. That's a little bit better. Oh God, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible. So we got 10, 23, 29, 38. Oh, good grief, that's really bad. 38 coins. I could have had. I could have had lots. I could have had 100, and I got 38. That's terrible. And a random item from the random starting gear, which is over here. Now I do have maximum. Okay, so the way that you limit your carrying ability is you've got a maximum number of item slots. Strength plus 10. So my strength is 9, so I have a maximum of 19 item slots. So I can only put up to this amount of stuff. I can't use all these slots here. There's also no place to put shards. Okay, so we'll put total number of shards, coins and gems. So shards don't take up a slot here unless I've got like 100 of them. So I've got 18 shards. So I'll just make a note up here. 18 shards. But the total number of shards, coins and gems, so 18 plus 38 there. That's not even 100 yet, so it's not even one slot. Okay. So that wasn't very good, was it? Right, let's see. We're going to get a random item from the random starting gear. So this is a D10. Let's move these out the way. D10, come on. We got a 4, which is D4 candles. Oh, well, 1. We've got a candle. Again, I don't know whether this is actually supposed to be taking up a slot. I think that some of them might come down here to non-encumbering. I think a candle will probably come down here, but I'll sort that out later. That's terrible. And I got a random weapon. All right, so I didn't really escape with much then, did I? 112. 112, random weapon. We're rolling on this table here and we're rolling percentage. So rolling percentage, what weapon do we get? We get 68. 68 is a great sword. Oh, I can't use it, it's big. It's big. Oh no. Might be able to sell it. I'm going to be all sneaky with a bloody great sword on me back. Oh no. But I mean, it might be worth a bit of money. Let's have a look. A great sword. It's worth up to 200. Very nice. But when you are trading and selling, you also have to roll, because the traders may pay less, they may pay more. Completely random. So, okay, so it is. Great sword is slashing 2d8. Slashing 2d8. Notes. It can parry and heavy. So it's two-handed, can parry and is heavy. That's a bit of a problem. Is a little bit of a problem. I wanted like a staff or something, or a spear. A spear would have been good. And that, my friends, is everything that we need to create our character. Now, like I say, I've got a little bit of tidying up to do. I've got to put down the final values for all of the skills. Maybe rearrange some of this. I'm thinking the candle will come down here. One candle. That's terrible. That really is bad. Yeah, I mean, we've got our raft as well, but that's not good at all. Right, I am going to quickly calculate all these values and we'll have a look at the final sheet. Right, so character sheet is done. I will be writing this up, the background, properly. But yeah, I've adjusted the dex. I've now got 15 instead of 16, so coordination is now 75. Put something on the book to keep it flat. I've also updated all of the skills, so now we have all of their full values down here. Nothing really spectacular except for stealth, really. Notes, I've put here the notes relating to my talents. I've got my weapon there, my great sword. Kerenga Olewale with his bloody great sword that he doesn't really know how to use. What's his martial weapons? 9% chance of hitting with it. Yeah, I'm probably going to sell that. Okay, so the rations I've put here for the moment, I've put the candle down there. I am carrying a total number of 56 shards, coins and gems. So 38 coins and 18 shards. So at the moment it's taking up 1 slot. However, I am thinking that maybe on the raft, you get a raft sheet to keep track of your transport. You start with 20 hull. You can improve, you can craft and make your raft take more damage, sort of thing. There's a few things you start with here. Your solar still, 1 cup of water per day. You can, with sails, you can go 1 hex per day, oars 1 hex every 2 days. And in terms of natural decay, in terms of damage, 1 hull point every 5 hexes of travel. Now, what I'm thinking is, I might be able to keep the rations in one of the cargo areas because you have 20, yep, that's right, 20 cargo slots that you can put stuff. So I'm thinking that if I run out of item slots to carry, I could actually store some on the raft. That's the plan anyway. But yeah, that is our character with his candle, his candle and his greatsword. Kerenga Olewale. I think that's how you're going to pronounce his name. Right. So we are now ready for the playthrough, and that will come very soon. So guys, on behalf of myself and Kerenga, thank you very much for watching. We've had a quick look through the rules, but as we do the playthrough, we will be looking much more at everything in terms of the mechanics, in terms of the encounters. Everything's going to be shown in a lot more detail, a lot clearer during the playthrough. But we have now got our starting character. Not as good as I was hoping, but it's okay. Creates a challenge, can generate more role-playing. That's the plan. Right, guys? Thank you once again for watching. If you do enjoy these videos and my channel, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Would really appreciate that. Ring the bell so you can get notified of my uploads and comment away. Right, guys? Thank you once again, and until the next episode, take care, stay safe. Cheers.